This week's crypto recap. Crypto prices kept on climbing in a week that was full of exciting news, most notably from the altcoin space led by Uniswap. We cover all of this right now in our Collective Shift weekly recap. Actionable insights and a breakdown into the crypto market, all in under 30 minutes. As always, we'll kick things off with a quick market update, and it's been more of the same. Sounds a bit like a broken record, but for good reason, I think, with another sort of green candle and prices across the board sort of going higher, notably led by Bitcoin, as the story has been going on for 2024 of the demand for ETFs has really been the catalyst. I think that's been the main reason driving prices higher. So where are we at the moment? Bitcoin is at 54,500, the highest it has been since late 2021. And yeah, it's also the closest it has been to its all-time highs in a time before the Bitcoin halving, which is also sort of notable there, with the Bitcoin halving expected in mid to late April at this stage. Also saw some big price action from ETH. So it's also at a 22-month high and surpassed 3,150 for the first time, in a very long time, as anticipation over the Dencun upgrade, as well as sort of in ongoing speculation about the possible ETF, which we'll get to a bit later, as that sort of continues on. So really, this ETF demand continues. We actually saw daily volume record happening, I think it was 26th of February over there in the US. So yeah, that's very notable. So we saw the most volume, $2.4 billion worth of buying and selling of these new Bitcoin ETFs that were approved in January. So that was enough to even surpass the actual launch day of the ETFs themselves. So yeah, another sign of that ongoing demand. But yeah, Nick, it's quite a time in this market. So we might get over to one of probably the biggest news in recent days as well, that maybe just added to that overall positive market sentiment. I'll hand this over to you.
Yeah, man, it's been a really action-packed week, especially in cryptocurrency. This one is Reddit. They filed to go public, which we all knew about. So in those filings, they had to declare some of their cryptocurrency and what they held. So they came out and revealed that they actually invested and held Bitcoin and Ethereum. The key point here for me was that they said that they were investing excess cash reserves into these cryptocurrencies. So they stated that these two of the largest cryptocurrencies, and then we also saw Matic talked about that they held for operational reasons. And I think from the filing there, they just said that it was, quote, as a form of payment for sales of certain virtual goods. So this was just because Matic is used and they're leveraging the Polygon blockchain to house some of their avatars and still have some of their blockchain products rolled out. So pretty notable. We see another big name start to hold Bitcoin and ETH. We haven't seen too many public companies, declare this. It's been a bit quiet on that front. Back in 2021, when we saw the likes of SpaceX, Tesla, MicroStrategy, who keeps on buying. So there was another big buy in the last couple of days, but really good sign ahead for Reddit that they are looking at, housing or, using some of their excess reserves to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah, it definitely came in at a really, I guess, as the market was sort of getting excited already with this ETF demand, it was yet another sort of added ingredient. So we didn't really know when these Bitcoin and ETH were purchased, but that sort of at least floating the idea that they may continue doing so, Nick, was pretty exciting as well. So I think Reddit is planning to go public at some stage. I think maybe this year. So yeah, we might see that. That'll be a big event, I'm sure, as well. But we'll move on back to the ETF sort of space. Just quickly, don't want to bore you to death with the ETF sort of stuff, but you may have noticed out there, yes, obviously Bitcoin ETFs getting a lot of the headlines still, but there's been growing expectation about maybe the SEC, so the US securities regulator, maybe they will actually approve an Ethereum ETF in a similar way that they did with Bitcoin in January, and therefore, if people are getting excited or confident that will happen, you can see a lot of them sort of placing their bets on ETH, and that is arguably why it has started to outperform Bitcoin in the markets in the past few weeks. But we've got differing opinions still out there in the industry. with regards to just how likely this ETF approval is, or for Ethereum. So, we've seen a lot of people have that May 23rd date as being basically the deadline, where there are a lot of people sort of echoing the idea that, it will be approved by May the 23rd, for a number of reasons, which we may be able to quickly touch on. But we had a notable sort of someone taking the opposite side of that, or at least saying it was, going to take a bit longer. So last week, the CIO of Valkyrie, said that they anticipate that the ETF approval won't happen. It'll take another like 1 to 2 years. So yeah, nothing to get excited about in May, in their opinion. So really, the gist of their argument is just how different, the Bitcoin ETF is compared to what could be the structure of an Ethereum ETF. That's in their opinion. So a quote here is just, I think it will take the SEC a lot of time to get their head around what disclosures look like for a product like that. So it could take another year just to understand the disclosure aspect. So that was in an interview with The Block. Were there any additional thoughts on that, Nick?
I guess we could interesting to hear your opinion, Matt, on which side of the fence you sit on. Are you with Bloomberg analysts who put it at 60%, or are you closer to Valkyrie's chief investment officer here with the feeling that we may see a delay in that? I know prediction markets are sort of at a 50-50 and closer than I actually would have anticipated.
Yeah, as I said, I was probably more on the side of Valkyrie, as we were talking about probably last year. We couldn't really understand what all the excitement was about. But as I've sort of read a bit more, I'm starting to get a bit more confident that it can happen in May, like mainly because of all the precedents that we saw for the Bitcoin ETF, about the futures ETF being there already, and it's already like on a regulated exchange in the US. It's not the be all and end all, but I think it definitely helps. But yeah, if it was happening in May, I would be pretty surprised to see a staking component be a part of that. So we've seen some ETF issuers, put in their Ethereum ETF application, and they've also included in that said, we're going to pass on, some staking rewards to maybe share to unit holders of this ETF, which, yeah, I just think is like absolutely not going to happen anytime soon. But look, I'd definitely entertain. I'd be happy if it was approved. But yeah, I don't know. What about your thoughts there, Nick?
Yeah, I'm probably in a similar position as you. I was very shocked to see the euphoria and high percentages put on the ETF, especially I think we spoke about this in the pod last week. But upon thinking about it more, I actually question about if we do see the just an Ethereum ETF without the staking component, about how useful that would be. I guess if that does happen, I probably wouldn't expect to see the inflows to be as high, just because the opportunity cost then of leaving money on the table, not getting that staking yield, is pretty high. So I wouldn't expect then to see such euphoria in the inflows like we saw for Bitcoin, if that staking isn't passed on, because I imagine more sophisticated actors wouldn't want to bypass that extra yield that they could be earning and that extra cash and just go directly from the source. So a lot to look forward to. And yeah, I'm like you, Matt, I'll be very surprised, but we've seen crazier things happen in the space, so I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, definitely. And just like to really finish this section here, I think in March, I think we'll be able to know, I think, a lot more of a likelihood or lesser of a likelihood, because that's when you should start to be seeing like application amendments by ETF issuers, like what we saw with Bitcoin, where maybe they're discussing in dialogue with the SEC about what the SEC maybe needs the issuers to sort of, or the applicants to sort of improve on. Or change, therefore making it more likely that they will approve. If it's just crickets on that end and there's just silence, I would probably be getting less confident. But yeah, we'll definitely know more in the weeks to come. But yes, that's enough of ETF talk for now. We'll move on to another trend that's been just roaring and just continuing on. It's airdrop season. We're well in the deep of it, but I think we both agree, Nick, that there's a lot of airdrops still to come. Can you maybe just recap what we've seen since our last podcast?
Yeah, so the altcoin season, or like airdrop season, I might add, is just continuing to roar on, as you mentioned. We've saw a dozen, half a dozen more tokens either launch and issue airdrops. We saw Starknet Stark token airdrop went live for claiming. Pixel was an airdrop for Ronin stakers, which is a gaming chain. We saw Optimism kind of surprised with a fourth OP airdrop for people who are creating NFTs on Ethereum and on Optimism. And we saw Alt Layer airdrop some Alt tokens to eligible tier Celestia stakers. So a lot going on in this space. This is only probably a couple. There's a few more that have went on that we haven't listed. We're only expecting this to ramp up, especially as I guess the bull market proves that it's not a fad and there's more legs to go here, because as we all know, a lot of tokens do want to launch in this bull market with a lot more attention rather than launching in a bear market with a lot less eyes and a lot less demand for their tokens. So yeah, a lot going on. And I know we talked about this in our latest newsletter, where I kind of just dove into some of the 3 airdrops that we were looking forward to. If you missed these ones, I know there's a lot out there. Maybe we're going to get into Athena a little more later. So this was another one that I'm sort of speculating and has started to launch some sort of points programs for early adoption of the protocol, which launched Mainnet. We're also seeing a ton more, whether it's L1 or L2 networks, potentially look to tokenize. Matt's just showing you now an overview of our airdrop page, where we go over the blockchains, the dApps, the wallets, and all the different crypto projects out there that could potentially issue tokens and airdrops in the future. I'm not sure on your end, Matt, what are the ones that you're particular looking forward to?
Yeah, I've been using Chain quite a bit on the testnet, and that's one that I expect to do quite well once it launches. They've been building for a while. Another one sort of in the Cosmos Hub sort of ecosystem, but that's just one of many. Honestly, I'm not going too deep on the airdrop farming stuff just for time restraints. But yeah, what about yourself?
Yeah, as mentioned, the Athena is probably the highest kind of new meta that's probably going to be happening. A lot of people looking to farm that airdrop, because we just saw ones that like Starknet, they've already announced it. Even Eigen Layer probably reaching the ends towards their snapshot. The snapshot's probably closer than the start. So a lot of focus may shift to projects that are at the start of that snapshot. Or, there's a lot more time to get in on these early projects. Infinex is probably another one that's launched a governance points program. I expect them to roll out a greater points program in the future once they have a full rollout of their platform. And for those unaware, Infinex is kind of just shaping up to be this DeFi platform and exchange, which tries to merge, the best of Web 2 and Web 3 just to create a really unique user experience. So a lot out there. I know Monad, a lot of people talking about the Monad airdrop. Eclipse is one that's probably not as talked about, which is kind of trying to get a Frankenstein sort of network, taking the best of Ethereum, Solana, and Celestia. That is in testnet, and Mainnet is approaching really closely. So yeah, a lot to like there. Even Linear, the consensus network, which a lot of people forgetting their MetaMask token. Maybe it's been a long time coming and they've totally forgot about it, but I'm anticipating possibly a network token that could be related to whether it's the MetaMask wallet or it's people who used the consensus Linear network. So a lot to like on the airdrop front, and I'm only expecting many more to come this year, especially in the Solana ecosystem. If you head to our airdrops page, we've got a lot of Solana airdrops that could potentially look to tokenize.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to keep on top of, but can be a lucrative pursuit. Obviously, the risk as well. Always mindful of the airdrop risk associated with airdrops, which we do cover on that page as well, collectiveshift.io/airdrops. But probably onto, the altcoin updates now, and probably one of the altcoins that was many people's first ever airdrop in Uniswap. Here they are all these years later, and there was quite a big proposal over the weekend. Nick, did you want to break this one down?
Yeah, so Uniswap was the biggest overhang over the industry. A lot of people wondering when we're going to see Uni turn on the fee switch, and that looks like it could potentially be closer than we may think with the Uniswap Foundation and their new sort of governance head proposing a new governance proposal to turn on this fee switch, which will enable the collection of protocol fees, which will be distributed to potentially stakers who stake their Uni tokens. This was just a big deal because Uniswap have tried to pass this fee switch in the past, trying to do a few little pilots, but none have been taken off the ground. None have really gained wide acceptance in the Uniswap community, and we have yet to see this fee switch. So it's just a pretty pioneer moment, I think, Matt, because Uniswap jumped about 60% a day after this news, hitting its highest level since March 2022. Just so significant with the regulatory pressure on DeFi at the moment. It's growing really intense. And this is kind of like a tipping point for Uniswap. If we do see this governance proposal pass and we start to see Uni stakers or Uni holders start to get some of these revenues, I'm really questioning about what this says about their confidence in Uni, and we'll finally start to see more value accrual come to some of these legacy tokens who have really struggled at the moment. Uniswap, commands still 60% market share across the board, even though it doesn't have any value accrual just yet. So I'm really eager to see how this proposal goes, whether we see it pass unanimously, how much attention then will shift onto Uniswap from the likes of US authorities now that they're getting or sharing fees to holders. And then again, how it sort of competes with the rest of the market, because I noted in the governance forum proposal, they did notice that, and they said essentially, hey, Uniswap is really coming up against a lot of competition. We need to move really fast with Uniswap. We can't allow Uni to just sit there in this sort of half world where it's not really a value accrual token. It's kind of has these vague governance rights associated to it, and it's kind of operating in this la la land. So really interested to see this proposal. I think it's some of the biggest news this week, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Where you're talking about just altcoins, like as a sector, if you would, like, ignore anything that's happened with Bitcoin, ignore anything that's happened with Ethereum, like it's one of like the biggest news pieces of the year, I think, and it could really set a trend, assuming it does get approved. Because I think the price reaction, I think you're right, Nick. I interpreted it the same, in that I think the price reacted more so because it was a display of increased confidence by the Uniswap Foundation themselves. Like that, the proposer was someone from the Uniswap Foundation, which for the previous proposals has not been the case. It's just been some third party sort of firm or investors and whatnot. So again, it's like, hey, do they know something about maybe, that they're maybe very confident that they're legally kind of really a very defensible position, possibly. But I think that's why we saw such a strong price action. And for anyone just not familiar with what this whole fee switch thing is, Uniswap's a great example because it's one of the biggest projects in the entire crypto market. However, there is a 0.3% fee whenever you do a swap. So you swap, the USDC stablecoin and you swap it for some ETH, you get charged 30 basis points. 100% of that. So this has been the case since Uniswap went live. All of those fees go to liquidity providers, which are just other users who basically help Uniswap operate, really. So when we're talking about turning on the fee switch, so this whole time, Uniswap, the protocol, has not been earning any revenue in the form of fees. So the debate has always been, hey, should we turn on the fee switch, meaning either just cut into liquidity providers' profitability and just like maybe redirect some of their fees to us, or do we add on an extra on top of that 30 basis points? Do we add another fee that gets redirected to the Uniswap protocol treasury, which is governed by Uni holders? So that sort of connection there to the value accrual of the Uni token. Probably another step on that is you're seeing projects decide to turn on the fee switch. That you see it used in other ways too, where, as Nick said, like maybe stakers of the Uni token are able to then actually get a distribution of that revenue, which you see in a lot of other projects at the moment. Maybe I think PancakeSwap might have it. I think there's certainly ones on like Arbitrum and whatnot, and Frax, GMX, which again is probably another step deeper into it, probably regulatory like uncertainty. But even this initial step of simply turning on some fee revenue to the protocol itself, I think is like should very well happen for Uniswap, and then taking those stakers is certainly ones that surprised me, and I think surprised the market as well, of seeing just how sort of aggressive, for lack of a better term, or confident the Uniswap Foundation is with this proposal. So yeah, it's really, you just cannot understate, I think, the significance of this proposal, and yeah, really keen to see what domino, the lead domino that it sort of sets off.
Yeah, I saw a lot of other DeFi tokens also sort of caught that bid with Uniswap, potentially signaling to other DeFi tokens, in a, maybe, as you mentioned, a bit of confidence to the DeFi industry. Shifting tones there, Matt, but we've also got probably the other big news that hit was Athena, as we mentioned, a potential airdrop. Their mainnet went live, but this also caused a lot of confusion in the space. A lot of new people were very concerned. A lot of people who dealt with the 2022 collapse, 2021 collapse, by the likes of Terra Luna in May 2022. A lot of concerns about whether Athena, this new stablecoin, is in any way sort of going to suffer the same fate as Terra Luna, which was a top 10 stablecoin in cryptocurrency, which then death spiraled to essentially zero. Maybe you can fill in any of our audience about what makes Athena different to Terra Luna, or whether people may in fact should have cause for concern.
Yeah, so with Athena and the sort of USDE token, there are definitely risks, just like any sort of smart contract protocol and whatnot. But I think the risks are very different here with Luna, which was one of the industry's biggest sort of public blow ups as well, with $70-80 billion worth of value just disintegrated due to sort of a depegging of the UST stablecoin. And this launch of Athena, brought up those memories, with people rightfully questioning, hey, why is there a 25% sort of interest rate or APR on this USDE token? Like, surely something is going dodgy, something dodgy is going on here. Really, to really be brief, it's not really comparable to the Luna UST token. Where Athena's, I guess, the mechanisms that sort of underpin the USDE product. I'm really trying not to call it a stablecoin here, because the team themselves don't call it a stablecoin. I think they used to, like 6 months ago. They stopped calling it a stablecoin, but honestly, calling it USDE is just a terrible. If that's going to be your strategy, you just shouldn't have named it that. But that aside, it's really just giving you exposure to a certain trade that's done in traditional finance, just known as a basis trade, where it's really just like the demand for this product is really just connected to demand for leverage. So it's tied into sort of perpetuals trading, which is a very popular sort of derivatives market in crypto. And so long as there is demand and usage for that, there will be sort of a case for USDE. That's basically as simple as that's as deep as I will go for the sake of this podcast. Like, there is custody risks is probably a big one, like with the USDE product. But not so much like a depegging risk in the sense of the Terra Luna sort of algorithm that really just essentially stopped working, like, or it was designed poorly and therefore just led to the UST stablecoin just going to zero. So it's a new project that it's been tried a couple of times, this particular design. But this is the third attempt. So that those two projects just didn't get enough demand. But we'll see if Athena has sort of timed the market. It looks like they've timed the market pretty well compared to those other two ones that have sort of went away previously.
Yeah, one I'll definitely be paying attention to, and hopefully we'll keep our listeners up to date with, as no doubt we're going to see more money flow into Athena and more money raised there. Another one probably that was, talked about heavily is Blast. So Blast went live went live for deposits last year, and they amassed now what is about $2 billion worth of TVL. They're an Ethereum L2, so a network built on Ethereum. They announced that they're on track to hit a Feb 29 mainnet date. So this before maybe when this goes live or shortly after, we're going to see Blast officially launch its mainnet, making it possibly the third highest TVL for an Ethereum, layer 2 network. So no doubt, Blast is going to shoot up the rankings. We're going to see a lot of attention on Blast in the coming week. And so, yeah, I'm really interested just to see how much money then does flow once it's live, because we saw $2 billion, locked into it without even a live platform. So I'm really curious to see once it's live and people have confidence in the network, whether we're going to see more value flow and whether it will challenge Optimism and Arbitrum, for that 1 and 2 spot on the TVL ladder.
Yeah, well said. It'll be a big week ahead, I think, for the Blast ecosystem, which surprisingly has a lot of projects building on that ecosystem. I think their way of launching has been very different to all the other layer 2s in terms of building up, bootstrapping and funding a lot of early stage projects that are native to the chain itself. And that's something that I've taken notice of, and we'll see how effective that is. Just a couple quick ones here. Just Avalanche, obviously one of the more popular blockchains. They did have an outage, I think, over the weekend for about 6 hours or so. So that was due to a bug, which I believe, they have identified and sort of got that back up and running. But again, takeaway, just another reminder of how early a lot of this blockchain technology is and how hard it is to honestly just keep a blockchain network up and running in a permissionless, decentralized way. Tron, speaking of another sort of blockchain as well, notably last week they lost support for USDC. So Circle, the mint or issuer of USDC, they came out and said, we're going to not support Tron anymore. Really just citing regulatory uncertainty. There's always been a lot of, murky waters with regards to Tron. Sure, it may be a legitimate chain, but there's definitely a lot of things that don't seem to make much sense, and their disclosures are off. I don't really think it's very transparent in terms of the way that they get so much volume and whatnot. USDT obviously being the preferred stablecoin on Tron, so maybe just a bit of a sign there of Circle trying to just get away from any regulatory pressure that may be coming for Tron or may not be.
Yes. Also, just to finish there, I saw that I think USDC on Tron only represented less than 1% or something absurd like that. So 95 vast amount of transactions on Tron is done through the the Tether stablecoin. So also maybe another reason there is just such a low volume that it doesn't, probably the trade-off there for risk doesn't make much sense, especially as Circle is actually looking at potentially going public.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great point there, Nick. All right, things we're looking forward to this week. I think ETH Denver will be on all throughout the week, and the side events sort of around that date. So late February, early March, expecting a lot of announcements, as we sort of talked about, I think, last week. And obviously the launch of Blast, I think, will be dominating the headlines throughout this week as well. In terms of just rapid fire, I'll quickly, just wanted to highlight one report here from CoinGecko. So obviously we are deep into airdrop season, as we talked about, and still will be going for the next 12 months, I reckon. It's important to know, okay, what's the average performance of sort of past airdrops? And CoinGecko went quite deep into going through the 50 top airdrops in terms of, I think, just value distributed since early 2020 to February this year. And they found, what is generally like sort of the highest value that these tokens get to, sort of how long does it take for them to reach their highest value. They found that 46% of airdrops of these top 50, 46% of them reached their highest valuation within the initial 2 weeks following their release. So some good study or report and analysis there by CoinGecko, which we'll link to in the show notes to that report.
Yeah, interesting one there, Matt. Probably my underappreciated, we'll have to go back to a classic Ethereum circulating supply. This hit a new post-merge low on the back of a lot more network activity. So we're hitting, I think, about the current supply of 120.15 million. So this is down from about 120.52 million back about good 530 days now when the merge happened. So this is probably one of the metrics I'm looking forward to closely, especially after Dencun, just to see if we do see more network activity, more demand for to post data back to Ethereum. We could see this ETH supply start to dwindle even more. I think it's at a negative 0.21% issuance rate at the moment. So really keen. I think that's the one I'm keeping my eye on over the next couple of weeks.
That is a wrap for this week. If you are looking for more insights, see our revamped weekly Shift newsletter, providing free market insights every Friday straight to your inbox. Subscribe at collectiveshift.io/newsletter. That's collectiveshift.io/newsletter.